Greetings and welcome to episode 16 of One Bottle Each. I'm joined today by my friend Melanie Ofenloch, known online as Dallas Wine Chick. Melanie's journey to wine appreciation has included jug wine, box wine, and cheap Italian wine. An eventual trip to Napa Valley really launched her love for fine wine. She writes the extremely popular wine blog, DallasWineChick.com, and contributes to a number of other sites. Melanie, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Gabe, thank you for having me. I'm excited to finally make the cut.
Of course. Been waiting for you.
You have. That's an understatement.
So when the pandemic is completely over and we do wine travel again, what wine place are you dying to travel to? And is it somewhere you've been or somewhere you want to go for the first time?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, same here.
I just want to get out and put my feet back in the dirt and see the vines and smell the barrels and do everything that I just can't do here in Dallas, Texas.
You might even be excited about that destemmer that you see this time. Because usually, every winemaker wants to show a destemmer, but after you've seen about 1,000 of them, they're not as exciting. But right now, I will probably hug the next destemmer I see.
Yes, and I want to see all the glassware, all of the bottling.
Absolutely, yeah, and the cork machine too, 100%. So, those of us, getting to that, those of us who write about wine or involved in the wine industry in one aspect or another, we're lucky. We get to taste all sorts of wine. High-end wine, mid-range wine, just like great wines, whether it's highly scored, whether it's expensive, regularly, it's a blessing. How do you balance that and sort of keep things real? Because I know you love to promote, everyday wines and things that people can afford to drink. So how do you balance your opportunity with people's reality?
I'm all about discovery. Finding wines that are affordable, unexpected, and frankly, that I haven't tried before. And I love when I try something from a region that I didn't even know produced wine and it's good. And that's kind of my aha moment when I really want to evangelize and spread the word and tell people, you know what, just go beyond what's common to you and what you're comfortable with, and really try to branch out and find other things.
I completely agree. I always tell people if I'm given a choice between one of my favorite bottles of all time and a bottle of wine I've never had before, 99% of the time I'm going to choose the bottle of wine I've never had before.
Yes.
And speaking of bottles of wines I've never had before, I'm so excited by what you chose for our tasting. You chose a sparkling wine from Armenia.
Yes.
And it's a Blanc de Blanc. And I'll be honest, I've literally never had a wine from Armenia that I'm aware of. It's possible somebody put something in my glass and I didn't know that, but it's the first one I'm aware of. So I'm super, super pumped. What led you to pick this?
The folks from Storica Wines and Armenia reached out to me and said, "Would you like to try some wine?" And I said, "Absolutely." I knew that Armenia is one of the oldest places in the world. I did not know that it was one of the oldest producers in the world, and that it had been making wine for, probably since the very, very beginning. And I knew that because of political developments, they were pivoted to make something else in the Soviet age. And so they were told by the Soviet government that they had to make a liqueur. And so that's when winemaking stopped in Armenia. But there's a lot of winemakers, Storica, for example, that came back and said, we have amazing terroir, we have amazing history, we have wines that have been created here since the beginning of time. And we need to go back and we need to reclaim our heritage and we need to reclaim these grapes. And they started making sparkling wines and still wines, and they're really good. They're grapes you probably have never heard of, and that's part of the fun. But everything that I've tried so far, I've been just blown away with, and I really wanted to share this with you because I know you're a fellow sparkling lover, I know that you like to go down the path of adventure, and I thought you would appreciate this as much as me.
Absolutely. I am down all do go down all of those paths. And what you just said really reminded me of when I was in the country of Georgia, because they had a similar experience where they had to stop making the wines they were making. And the Soviets, they were under Soviet rule, and they actually had to make really inexpensive, really sweet sparkling wines, or what they were sort of forced to make, and were not really propagating their native grapes, which they have hundreds of. So the stories seem to have some parallel there.
Absolutely. And there were lots of back and forths with when I was talking to them about Georgia, and they were talking about how Georgia had really kind of developed their wines more than Armenian wines, because they went back in and started this journey a little bit earlier than the folks in Armenia did.
Yeah, and what's interesting in Georgia, they have. I wonder if Armenia has or will do anything like this. They have a nursery where they've planted every single native variety they're aware of, which number in the hundreds, as well as international varieties. Not so much because they plan on really using those a lot for the most part, but they want to see what it does and they want to have it available.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So speaking of varieties, I don't know if I'll pronounce this right, but this is 70% Voskahat and 30% Katuni. Do you know if that's right?
That's pretty close.
Pretty And so it's made using the classic champagne method.
Correct. And one thing, there are close to 400 varietals in Armenia that they're making right now, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's wild. So that's in league with Italy and Georgia, which are two other countries that have literally hundreds of varieties, which is pretty wild. This is lovely.
Yay! I'm so glad you agree.
The thing that really blows me away here, it's twofold. It's the combination of the creaminess and mouthfeel on the palate, and then just the driving acid on the finish.
Uh-huh. And then all that fruit and acidity and everything else that you get in between.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, those are the first two things that sort of hit me. It's delicate, it's persistent, it's fruity, it's fresh. $25, $26, I think I read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
I mean, wouldn't you be? I would love to drink this. I'd love to have. I've served this to a couple of people, and they've just been blown away. And I haven't said, "You're drinking Armenian wine." I'm like, "What do you think of this?" I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so good."
It's so good. And it's funny. I said this literally the last two episodes with my other guests' wines. I felt that way about those, and I feel that way about this wine. If we were sitting at a dinner where we were going to be served, 4 or 5 wines, one with each course, I would be sad when we had to move on from this wine to the next one. Not because I would expect the next one wouldn't be good, but this is utterly delightful.
Yes. Well, cheers to you. I'm so glad you like it.
Cheers, and thank you for picking it. This is awesome. So what else have you explored in Armenian wine wise? Just sparkling, or have you tried some still wines?
Yep, I've tried 2 sparklings, and I've tried Arnini and an Arnini Reserve, which are the 2 reds. And then I have tried, okay, I'm really going to mess it up. The Voca, like you just said.
Yeah.
Voca hat.
Yeah.
Which is the white. And it was really good too.
The nose is lovely too. It's got a little bit of nuttiness.
Mm-hmm.
A floral. That's great. Well, I look forward to trying more of their stuff. So let me ask you. You and I met in Dry Creek Valley, and which is for me a beloved region for a million reasons. I guess, as they say, for all the reasons. And one of the things Dry Creek is known for, among many others, I need to say that because some don't realize, but Zinfandel. So I'm curious, where in your wine drinking experience did Zinfandel become, a player for you personally?
It's gone past a long time. I think Frank family was probably the first one, not in Dry Creek, obviously in
Yeah,
Napa,
Napa.
where I fell in love with Zinfandel and went on a journey to really go down the path of exploring the grape. And Dry Creek obviously is it's such a special place. And that trip that we had with Petrosellis was, I mean, you just can't replicate that. That was
No.
becoming part of somebody's family on a special day. And it means still so much that we were all included for their night.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, that was for me, Pedroncelli in the mid '90s was my first Zinfandel I ever had. So to come full circle and be there for their 90th was, I can't even put into words how important and special that was for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. But I think probably Lodi and Robert Larson really has done an amazing job in expanding my personal tasting of Zinfandel with all the wonderful wines that he has introduced me to as well. But I love it. I think it's great.
So
Yeah.
it's still a go-to
Yeah.
wine for you. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in Texas, which is the land of the big, and
yeah.
sometimes I don't want a Cabernet that needs a long time to open, and with Zen, I can often get there a lot faster.
Well, that's true. So has your, because I'm curious, because it has for me. Has your Zen palate changed at all? Because
Yes,
mine's gotten more to the sort of the classic, a bit more restrained style of Zinfandel. I can drink the bigger blustery one from time to time, but I can only drink well about that much of it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I feel over time, I definitely enjoy a more restrained wine much more than a big, bad, high alcohol wine. I just find more appreciation and nuance in the others.
Yes, same here. I look for, yeah, the nuance, and I'm looking for the acidity. More and more time goes on, I want more of the acid-driven wines, and quite frankly, I can drink more of those.
Yes.
Like this sparkling wine from Armenia. I mean, I could. This is the kind of thing. If I was in the mood to drink a bottle of wine, I could drink a bottle of this. You can't do that with everything, and it's modest alcohol too, 12.5%. Um, which helps as well.
Yes. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. So old world to old world, I chose a Rioja Baronia Gran Reserva 2010, and kind of different in the sense that yeah, both old world, but Spain obviously a super known quantity to most wine lovers. Where Armenia, not as much. So I picked this. I just when we talked about doing this, I just had in my mind that since we'd met in a New World place, I wanted to specifically pick an Old World wine, and I've always loved Rioja, and I think they're one of the classic places in the world still for good value.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, kind of a fun fact with this, when winemakers were still visiting, Mateus, I think it's Kalea, the winemaker, came to Dallas in July of 2018, and we had lunch. And he opened three bottles of his Reserve Rioja that were barrel samples.
Oh
And
wow.
so we got to try the different ones, which they were two were straight, one was a combo, and it was a really interesting tasting. And it was fun to get to meet him and to talk about what his vision was and how he was evolving. And so when this arrived, it made me smile and think back.
That's nice. It's always good to have a fond memory. And I should add that along with just not just value, but I think Rioja is also the place where you can routinely get aged value
Mhm.
because of the aging process in Rioja. This is an almost 11-year-old wine now, and it's got a retail of about $30. So what do you think of this?
I think it's really good. I think it's cherry and licorice and cigar and blackberry, earth, truffle. There's a lot going on in there. I think it's a really good wine.
And I think it belies its age a bit because I mean, you can certainly some of the secondary stuff has come out. I get a bit of a leather and some earthiness, but there's still plenty of fruit here. It certainly doesn't really seem like an 11-year-old wine.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. It's really good. But he always makes really good wine.
So, what in the wine world, Melanie, is exciting you these days?
That's a great question. I think I see wineries starting to open back up, and people can actually interact with them again. I personally am not ready to go down that track quite yet, but
Hmm.
um, I'm excited that they can get back in front of consumers and sell wine the way they know how to sell wine versus on a Zoom call like we are today, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's for me. Three of my interests. Um, are well, many things are getting back to normal or starting to get back to normal. Wine, yeah, people can go bump up at a bar or at least be at an outside tasting. I'm a huge music fan, and
Right.
live music is what keeps me alive. And uh, there's a big difference between being in a room or even on somebody's lawn seeing music as opposed to through a screen.
Yes.
So those things are in restaurants. Restaurants being able to open back up even if at a limited basis and only with percentage of their seating for now, but it's really makes all the difference. I hope we all come out of this appreciating the things we love just a little bit more.
I think we have to. I think there's been such a scaling back and scaling down in this new normal that I feel like people are going to be so thankful, when we can go out and we can share a glass of wine again. We can go back to these conferences and these venues with music and everything else. I know I'm going to be excited.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I hope it lasts. Has the pandemic changed your drinking habits in any way, whether that's drinking more, drinking less, or drinking differently, or have you discovered something during the pandemic that you might not have otherwise?
I feel sorry for my FedEx and UPS people. There,
Yeah,
there is so much wine that comes here now, and I feel like I finally had to put some constraints around sending wine because I used to just accept the samples that came to me,
hmm,
and then I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of samples,
yeah,
and when you can't share it, it's just you can't cycle through it the way that you'd like to. I think I don't know if I actually answered your question. I think everybody's just had to pivot and figure out how to operate in
yeah,
this new normal and make sure our livers stay intact, right?
yeah. Well, or at least have a backup liver ready to go.
The plug and play.
Yeah, well, it's exactly it. Yeah, yeah. Right, and make sure it's you've got the right port. It's a USB-C, not a mini USB, so that it fits. You don't want to have the backup liver, and then it's got the wrong adapter. You're on the table, the liver's out, you're screwed.
I love it. I love it. So true.
Well, Melanie, I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it
Well,
was fun. Thank
you're on
you.
you're on my list since I started this, so I could get Melanie on here. So happy you're here, and I hope we do it again before too long.
I would love it.
And maybe we could do this in person. Salud.
Yes. Salute.